All right, it says we are live, so we'll do the usual and give it a minute or three to get people in here.
Okay.
All right. There we are.
All right, it shows that
Haven't got
we're
a
live
notification
on
yet.
YouTube.
Yeah, I'm seeing us on
All
YouTube
right.
now.
Yep, we're up. We'll give it a, like I said,
All right, there we go.
give it a minute or three and
I'm seeing us on YouTube.
Okay.
All right, here we
let's
go.
see if I can maybe break the chat out so I can see what's going on with that. See what all the scallywags are up to. All
Got
right,
two
there's
people there.
that. Yeah, there's.
We're gonna be doing questions.
I lost you there for a second. Do what?
You think we're gonna have time to do questions later?
Yeah, John froze up.
Yeah, I think we're all just taking turns.
I'm usually the one that freezes up.
No, it's my computer. I think this thing's fixing to die, and I'm just gonna
Okay.
have to uh, get a new one here. Nah, guns. That's just my house slippers that you're smelling. That's all.
Time to upgrade.
Yeah, it'd be nice if somebody wanted to drop a new one in my lap.
Get one of
I
them
guess I could do like
them
I
channel
could
spots
do,
to fund you.
right, or I'll just do like everybody else does and start me a GoFundMe or something. Buy me a
Yeah,
new computer.
yeah.
I'll show you my sexy leg pics and all that. So
Ooh. So I was telling John that we had our roof replaced today. That was an experience, and it was like a drum, you know. Actually, for yesterday and today, just a complete pounding and had guys all over. So there's nails all in the yard. And the guy takes one of these big magnets that usually is supposed to be on wheels, like at a range, to pick up the metal
yeah,
shell casings. No wheels. So he's dragging it. So I'm surmising that as some got picked up, some got knocked off. So I probably have about the same amount of nails in my grass. You
so
know,
after they did our roof, I think for a full 8 months afterwards, I was constantly finding them either by seeing them or getting them in the mower tires or getting them in
yeah,
the bottom of my shoes.
yeah,
One of those three, and that was for a full 8 months.
yeah. No, I'm at least they're not in the driveway. And I don't park. I'm in Alabama, but I don't park my truck and my car in my front yard. So hopefully I won't get a nail in a tire. So
Yeah. All right, where are we at? It looks like we got about, it's fluctuating between 19 or 20. So we'll go ahead and kind of hit the highlights here, and I'll state it up front. And I know everybody's gonna still do it afterwards, but we try to watch the comments as best we can. We might miss your comment, so don't get all but hurt and offended if your comment gets missed and you don't get acknowledged, or you ask a question and it doesn't get answered. Um, we're not actually necessarily here to answer your questions. We're here to tell you what's on our mind and what we're talking about. So, you know, if it was a Q&A session, then I'd tell you it was a Q&A session. Just clearing that up front, because there was people last time that seemed to be a little bit upset because their comment wasn't getting addressed. Well, that's because it ain't your live stream and it ain't about you. Um, so this is something that the three of us have talked about in the past on more than one occasion and in more than one context. I just recently saw some stuff that kind of really just brought this to the forefront. So we decided that we'd talk about it, being New Year and state of affairs and the level of seriousness to which at least the three of us think things are getting. That the time for uh, BS information and just sweeping things away is long since past. And the whole point of this exercise is there are people, and I know this is going to be a shock, there are people on the internet in general and social media, YouTube especially, who will feed you bad information. Some of them have fancy, cool guy background and resumes. Some of those people, I think, aren't necessarily intentionally feeding you bad information. They just have bad cases of either normalcy bias or they don't they can't separate what they did as a cool guy versus what you might have to do as just an armed prepared citizen. And unfortunately, there are also the flip side of that coin. There's folks out there who will feed you bad information because for one reason or another, and I'll just be honest, I know one of those reasons is because some of them don't honestly think you'll ever actually need to use the information that they're giving you. They're giving it to you because they're banking on the fact that you will click on their video or whatever, subscribe to their channel, and do this number to them strictly based on their background, resume, credentials, etc. And you get them all those clicks and ad revenue, and that's all they're worried about what they're banking on. They don't think you're actually going to need to use the information. So giving you bad info or contextual info doesn't mean anything to them. One of these big areas is, as the title of the live stream says, when it comes to bug out bags, get home bags, and I didn't put it in there, but we'll even toss in patrol bags, etc. So they put out things that either don't fit, don't work in a lot of situations, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to, each of us has kind of got some of our own things that we'll get into. We're not going to get into what you should be packing. Okay. So if you're already getting that in your head, no, we're not going to tell you what you need to be packing because that's part of this whole point. You have to look at your situation and your context to figure out and determine what you need to be packing. Now, you can use people's videos and information as kind of reference points and to give you ideas and that sort of thing. But as I have told y'all a dozen times before, if not 100 times in my videos, don't just carbon copy what somebody is saying. Even me. Like, just because I'm using something or say I like something or it's how, I set stuff up, it does not mean that it's the right stuff and right situation, right context for you. Something to look for when you're watching the people with the super cool resumes and backgrounds. Do they give you any context to their video on their bags, whatever that bag may be? Like, what part of the country they're in? What time of the year are they planning on using it? How far away are they going from point A to point B, whether it's getting back home from work, whether it's bugging out on foot to a bug out location, whether it's patrolling their neighborhood property, whatever. How many people do they have to work with? How many people do they have to plan on going with them? Is it, a 28-year-old just out of the infantry stud with his 28-year-old CrossFit wife? Or is it middle-aged guys with 10-year-old kids to drag along. All of that changes a whole lot of context and a whole lot of stuff in the equation. So we'll probably touch on some different examples because I know Noel's got some and cousin Dick's got some, all kind of points that tweak our melons. But again, we're not going to name names because I don't give free advertisement here to people that I kind of disagree with. And it's pointless in a way because it doesn't matter who it is. What matters is the content itself. So who's saying it's irrelevant? But one of the things that I saw that kind of tripped my trigger again was a pretty well credentialed guy that a lot of people just fawn over, and was talking about his particular setup. And one of the things he mentioned was the weight of his bag. Well, guys, here's the sucky part of this. You can want to keep your bag all super duper lightweight. But the bottom line is, if you've got any kind of distance to go and any kind of things to do, you're going to have stuff. It's going to weigh weight. It's going
Oh,
Uh-oh.
we lost you right after wait.
Oh boy. Bad news when John freezes up.
Yeah.
If y'all can still hear me, it says I've lost connections. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but
You're good now.
Yeah, you're
Audio and video.
anyway,
better now than
anyway,
your sections ago.
I'm going to take a moment here to pause and address the NSA. If you're going to screw with the feed, I can't say anything worth you recording. I pay a lot of freaking tax money to the government. Please use it for better equipment. Thank you. Anyway, as I said, or was trying to say, if you're going to go any kind of distance, and let's just set the initial part of the context up. It can vary in a lot of ways, but there's one context that's going to be constant. If you're having to throw stuff in a backpack and walk somewhere, it's pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad. So establishing that up front, that means you're going to have whatever you need to have with you to stay alive, be it from the physical exertion, the elements, whatever. And I'm sorry to tell you, but that's going to weigh stuff and it's going to suck. And there are areas that you can go and manage the weight, and there's other areas that you're just going to have to suck up and carry the weight. Otherwise, you're going to die. That's just all there is to it. So I'll let you other guys kind of get some words in so we can kick it off and not just me sit here and ramble.
Yeah. So just to kind of dovetail on that point, it's going to get if you have a bag. Let's say you figure that the EMP hits your 3 days of walking, so you got a 72-hour bag, all right, and you don't necessarily need a lot of stuff. You need the right stuff. If it's in the dead of winter, you can't have a poncho liner and expect to lay down and get some sleep. Okay, you can't expect to have a one canteen and make it the whole way. So you've got to have the right stuff. If you have a sleeping bag, say you live in some place that's extremely cold, all right, up north, all right, you can't have a sleeping bag that's rated for 50 degrees when it's minus 30. So you've got to plan, and those things get weighty. Food gets weighty. If you're going to go 3 days and all you got is dehydrated food, and you're in Arizona going across the desert because the EMP hit and you can't find any water to rate that, you got a problem. So you're going to have to carry like some type of MRE pre-packed stuff. So my point is, it's not a lot of stuff, it's the right stuff, and those things a lot of times will add up. So
Yeah, and I ain't got any differing opinions from these fellers. You gotta you gotta pack smart and pack according to your situation. You can't you can't just rely on some other feller to tell you what to put in your bag. And that's the flour and the biscuit. We don't come here on YouTube to tell you what you have to put in your bag. You got to figure that out for yourself. And if you're going based on some feller who's in Minnesota and you're in New Mexico, you're going to have differing value set, and what works for them ain't going to work for y'all. So try not to get too wrapped up in what people are showing you is in their bag. Instead, consider it a, how do I want to put this? A checklist for needs and fulfilling them. What do you need? What does that guy need? How did he fill his needs? Now think about how you're going to fill yours.
yeah, good point. Um, you know, I, I've seen quite a few videos of individuals that have got like 5 ways to make a fire. Okay, and John, you and I have talked about this. So so you're gonna the EMP hits. You're walking home. The last thing you want to do is make a fire, unless you're in like a serious hypothermia type situation, because you're on somebody else's property, chances are. And if you've ever gone in your neighborhood and someone's cooking steaks out on the grill, you can home in on that real quick, right? So can that guy that has no lights on, nothing going on because the EMP hit. I keep saying that because that's what's going to happen probably. And he's going to smell that smoke, and he's going to see that fire because he knows every inch of it. So if you want to put something in your bag, put a lighter in there. It's going to work. You know, don't have to have 10,000 flint rods and friction thing and a bow and a drum. Just keep it simple, because you're not, all you guys that have been in the military and you've been on patrol. When was the last time you were on a patrol and you started a fire?
Yeah.
Security's
Right.
going to be everything.
So I froze up again for a minute, but I put Crystal's point up there because the food thing is something that we've touched on, because I've seen multiple people who, again, they don't tell you how far they've got to go for the bag that they've got built out. They just, oh, this is my get home bag or my bug out bag. Well, are you walking 10 miles or are you walking 100 miles? Because that's two very different things. But
Yeah.
one of the common themes I see is people will be throwing, oh, I've got, my big packet of lifeboat rations because they're small, they're lightweight, don't take up a lot of space, and I don't have to cook them or hydrate them or anything like that. Okay. Here's one problem with that. If you're up walking, you're burning calories. If you're carrying a pack, you're burning more calories. If you're walking carrying a pack, and as Crystal aptly points out, you are super stressed out and you're going to be stressed out, you're really burning calories. Clue: lifeboat rations are made to keep you alive while you're laying in a lifeboat doing nothing but sitting there waiting to get rescued. You're not expending energy.
Mm-hmm.
They are not made to give you the caloric intake that you're going to need being stressed out, walking on foot, carrying a 40 or 50-pound ruck. So that's one example of of how you can get off in the weeds. And like Noel and Dick both said, what a guy needs up in Minnesota and what somebody needs in southern New Mexico and what somebody needs in South Florida, excuse me, are all very, very different things throughout the different times of the year. I mean, I can't go freaking 200 yards down here without finding water somewhere. Um, New Mexico, Arizona, not so much. It's a bit of a different ball game. So somebody out there is already going to need to be carrying a lot of water. And then if you start talking about having to use water to do rehydrated, rehydrate dehydrated food, I'll get it out in a minute. Now you're talking even more water that you got to carry because it ain't just laying around in a ditch somewhere that you can stop and use the pump and filter it and go with it. The other thing I see getting on to the water side of it, um, I know in the deep south, in the summertime, probably 50% or more of the weight that you're going to be carrying is going to be in water, even though we've got water everywhere. You're going to be drinking it like it's no tomorrow because you're going to be sweating like you've never sweated before.
Yeah.
And even though we have it every 100 feet, I don't want to have to stop every 100 yards and be filling up that one little water bottle that I got with me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have it enough on me so that I can go quite a ways before I have to stop and refill all those again. Otherwise, you're just stopping every 100 yards filling up your one little water bottle.
And also to Crystal's point, before we get too far away from what she wrote in there, so a 200-pound man doing vigorous hiking, mountain climbing with a pack, he burns up 500 calories an hour. 500 calories an hour. Now you can start. You may not be doing vigorous stuff, but as she said, the stress adds a different component to it. You're like, I got to get home. I got to get home. I've seen guys on that plan on running home. Okay, that's their plan, but that's going to burn up some calories. That's what we all do to lose weight, right? So you got to think about that. And when you start getting hungry and lack of sleep, what happens to your decision making process? And you need to have all your wits to you. So,
well, the lack. Go ahead.
All right, ready up. Dick's gonna drop some knowledge on you real quick. Now, if you're packing you a get home bag or a bug out bag, fixed with the notion that you know exactly how far you got to go. Say you got your get home bag arranged because you work so many miles away from home, and you reckon you might get stuck on the road on your way home or on your way to work, and it's only going to take you, say, 72 hours to get back. Consider for a moment that the way back ain't going to be the way you can go. What's going to happen if, at a fictitious scenario, a plane crashed on the bridge, tore up the dang highway? How are you going to walk through that? How are you going to get through a flood? How are you going to get through a wildfire that takes down 100,000 acres of forest? How are you going to get through a chasm created by an earthquake? How are you going to get through a blizzard that whites out an entire mountainside and causes an avalanche? Natural disasters and man-made disasters can throw a wrench in your bug out plan.
Yep.
People can throw a wrench in your bug out plan. If you think it's going to take you exactly 72 hours to get from your house to your bug out location, you run across bandits in the road on your way there. You got to go around them. Now your trip takes 2 more days. Pack extra. None of this ultra light 20-pound. Oh, I got 1 pack of crackers and a freeze dried meal, and that's gonna last me forever. And I'll get there in plenty of time not to die. That's all I had to add. Go ahead.
No,
Good point.
you're right on it. I mean, people don't account for extra unexpected detours and time that it's going to take them to get anywhere. And the first point of that whole exercise, and I just got to throw this in there, is have somewhere to go. Like, and this is not really germane to the topic, but I want to make sure it's covered. Your plan shouldn't be just to pack up and go. Like, you need to have somewhere you're going to. Your own retreat location, a family member, a friend, whoever. Just, oh, the national forest is 80 miles that way. I'm going there. You're you might not be better off staying where you're at, but you might not be better off going there either.
Yeah,
Depending
that's
on
a
where
bad
you're at.
plan. Yeah.
Have some place to go. That needs to be the first thing of the whole thing. But then, like Dick said, things are going to come up that can totally change what you need. And so many people like to mimic these ultralight hikers that hike like the Appalachian Trail and stuff, right? And oh yeah, these guys go out for 5-6 days at a time with their little 20-pound backpack. Yeah, because probably about every couple of miles along the Appalachian Trail,
It froze up.
Oh, dang.
There he is. He's back on the other side.
as I was saying, every so many miles along the Appalachian Trail, there's usually step off points that have stores to resupply all these people. So if something breaks or tears or rips or they run out of or whatever, they know they're never more than a couple of miles away from being able to stop off and get stuff. You're not going to have that luxury. You better get stuff that's going to work and last and be durable. It's why some of us are big on saying, if you've got to throw on a backpack and go somewhere, you better make sure that it's a pretty heavy duty, rugged bag. Oftentimes, that's a military type bag because they're made more rugged than most, not all, most civilian grade stuff. Are they heavier? Yep. It sucks. That's why this whole thing is going to suck, and you better hope that you don't ever have to do it. But if you do got to do it, you better be ready to do it and understand that it's going to suck. Trying to skimp out is going to get you killed, very likely. So, yeah, the couple of packs of wheat crackers and a little full packet of peanut butter. Yep, that's super lightweight, but you're heading for problems. And that nice lightweight sport backpack that you've got, now all of a sudden your 2-day trip turned into 5 days because of unexpected detours, and you're having to go through, say, thick, damaged, messed up terrain or whatever, and it's getting snagged and torn on stuff. And oh, it's getting soaking wet because it rained 2 days of your walk, and because that lightweight commercial pack was sewn with thread that's not meant to withstand the elements to that degree, is now wet and has dirt and sand in it and is eating away at the fibers of those threads. I say that from a sewing standpoint. There's a reason why certain threads are used in sewing gear and backpacks and stuff, because it's more resistant to that type of thing. But those are all little things that nobody thinks about when they just, oh, look, why do I want to get this $200 bag when I can get this $30 bag? It just holds stuff.
So if I can just jump in here for a minute. Well, speaking of bags, I got a couple things to say. One is that I've seen too many people that make videos and they take the stuff and they just throw in their bag. Guys, if you do not put it in a waterproof bag, especially clothing, socks, and everything else, you've never done this before, all right? Because when you do this, it's going to be raining, okay? The other thing I'm going to say, and this is what I have never seen, and I've actually made videos on it with the last company I was with, all right? Everybody's talking about them and their bug or their get home bag. Okay, so you're at work, your kids are at school, your wife is at the grocery store. It hits. Now things get complicated. How do you get your family back together? I've got a plan to get my family back together, right? All of my family have got radios that are in Faraday bags with them, all right? Some of them are in the house, some of them are older and gone, right? That your get home bag is one thing, all right? But then your plan to get your family back together is a whole nother. And I don't ever see that addressed because that gets, that's too complicated.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Well, there's a way,
Well,
but that's something I never see, and I wish I would, along with the lack of waterproof bags. So I'll get off my soapbox for a minute, and yeah, that's what I want to say.
Just one other thing, top on what cousin John was saying earlier about the lightweight fabric backpacks. All that stuff works good and well for them ultralight hiking folk, but those folks don't have to consider the possibility that they might have to off-road, get off the dang trail because there's pirates up ahead with party tools looking to pilfer their goodies.
And they're probably doing it in shorts.
Yeah. So you gotta be prepared for the possibility that you got to get off the trail and do a little hard terrain, and you might have to do it in a dang hurry. You're not always going to have like my good friend Gary in the comments pointed out that natural disasters often turn into people disasters
very quickly.
and that
Yeah.
when folks is desperate and hungry and unprepared, they go after the folks that ain't hungry and are prepared. If you're one of them and you got yourself one of them parachute material backpacks and you're planning on just hiking along on the trail until you get to your bug out location, guess what? Guess what?
You're a loot drop.
Yeah, you're gonna be in for a big old surprise when you gotta jump off the trail and hustle down some rocky slope and then crawl through some brush to stay hidden and get out the way. Your gear ain't necessarily gotta be, military grade, but it's definitely gotta be able to hold up to some punishment. Because if shit goes sideways, and pardon my French, you are not going to be able to get away with staying in places where your gear will be protected.
No.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be military grade stuff, but it's got to be good enough to withstand things more so than what most of this lighter, cheaper, ultralight stuff is. And two points that I thought of on that at the same time. Number one, again, this is just my personal experience and opinion, but I do not buy into nor believe all the stuff that people say about making sure you don't use a military backpack because you don't want molly webbing on it. You don't want it to look military because that's going to make you a target. Okay. In my humble opinion, that is bullcrap. Because if we're in the situation where you're having to walk on foot to go somewhere and people are that desperate, it's not going to matter what you're carrying. The fact that you could have a big old yellow giant JanSport backpack on from Walmart. If it's full up and a big tick on your back with all your supplies because you're smart and you packed right, the people that want it are not going to think twice about whether it's a military pack or a civilian pack or whatever. They're going to see you with stuff. You could have it all in a hefty contractor bag slung over your shoulder, and you're going to look like nothing more than a post-apocalyptic Santa Claus. They're going to want the stuff that you have in the bag. The kind of bag you're carrying it is going to be irrelevant. In fact, I would make the argument that, you know what? You might want to look a little bit like a porcupine. Wait a minute. That guy looks like he might have some serious hardware and knows what he's doing. Is he bluffing or not? I think I'm going to wait till the next one comes along that doesn't look quite as prickly as he does. Will that always work? No. But it does add that odds and chance in your favor. The other thing goes back to what Noel was saying a while ago. I see all these guys and a lot of the high speed, cool guy background guys put this stuff out. But what I never hear them talk about is they're bugging out with their little 20-pound backpack. Did I lose y'all?
No, you're good.
Okay. They're bugging out with their little 20-pound backpack, but they never say anything, again, lack of context, about what about wife and kids?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, he's gone. He froze. So it's me. There he is. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. What about wife and kids? They never talk about that part of the equation.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're going to take your 10-year-old daughter and have her survive and stay alive on the same things that you as a grown adult man can, no, it doesn't work that way.
And you're going to have, if you do have your kids, you're going to have to carry their stuff.
Probably. I mean, they can carry a little bit.
Yeah. It depends on how big they are,
Right. I mean, well, and back to what, the point you made earlier, if you think you're going to take a poncho liner and survive any kind of winter weather, maybe you can survive with one, but that doesn't necessarily, and surviving means you're still alive. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be mentally or even physically capable the next day after a long cold night. And if you think a 10-year-old kid's going to generate enough body heat to stay warm in something like that in any kind of cold weather, kids don't generate the same amount of body heat as a grown adult does.
That's exactly right.
Very different things.
And I want to just kind of highlight one of the things that you said about a Molly backpack. One, I don't plan on seeing people if I had to go. But the other thing is that go to the airport and look at how many guys have got Molly bags flying. They're pretty prevalent nowadays.
It's a common prevalent thing now.
It's not a big deal to me. That's my opinion.
It's the and what. So I'm gonna throw this up because it just popped up. This is something that you should avoid at all costs. Okay, and I'm not saying that, Casey, that you were saying that. I'm just using it as an example. The whole pack light freeze at night thing is something that's done sometimes in the military because they have to. If you are intentionally doing that, you're stupid. You're straight up stupid if you do that, because you can only do that so many times before you become physically and mentally ineffective. And if it's doing that to you, then wives, kids, small children, etc., you're putting them in really bad shape.
That's right.
So,
your decision-making process just goes out the window.
Yeah.
You got to sleep.
No, you can't do it. Oh, somebody just opened a fresh one over there.
That part was
Yeah.
where we was talking about staying alert when you exhausted your damn self.
Well,
Yeah.
there is that, and making cognitive decisions because you haven't slept any in 2 nights because you're freezing to death all night long.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to get rest while you shivering your balls off ain't the way.
Yeah.
No,
Might as well
no.
just keep going. Get up and go. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? I mean, you're not.
You'll generate more heat walking than you will just laying there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I want to talk about one thing that's kind of a sore spot with me. Again, you watch a video. There's no waterproof bag. Wrong food. And I know us guys, we like our knives, but when someone's got like 5, 6 knives, they're putting in a backpack because
Yes.
this has one feature of them. I mean, think back in your Army days. You're in the field. How many times did you really use a knife except to open up an MRE? I mean, I had it. It was the thing to do. I had a large knife, and then I got it smaller and smaller because every time I jumped, it was flapping and hitting my leg or something. But if you want to take a knife, take a knife. But have thought why you take that knife. But don't have a knife and then 4 more knives because they're just going to weigh you down. So take it, have some thought to it. Think of practicality, like if you go backpacking or something, how many times did you use that knife? I don't necessarily plan on having that knife as a part of my defensive plan necessarily, and it's a utility item. So
If you need a utility knife, I mean, how many people is carrying a multi tool?
yeah,
A multi tool's got a knife in it.
yeah, that's right.
You ain't got to have like a fixed blade knife, a folder, the emergency, medical shears. If you got the dang multi tool, it does all that.
Yeah. Just so, guys, if you lighten your load, give yourself a fighting chance. Just don't need all those things. Just like you don't need 5 different ways to start a fire. So
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this once before, um, and I'm sure Cousin Dick would probably love to elaborate on this. Um, how many log cabin bushcraft shelters are you going to be constructing
yeah,
on your bug out
yeah, yeah,
or your get home
yeah.
or your
Oh yeah,
patrol?
them bushcraft fellers, they crack me up, man. Not I'm not trying to say that being a bushcraft feller is wrong. If you want to learn them skills, fine. Maybe someday it'll come in handy. But if your plan is to pack a 20-pound bag and then survive the night by building a debris shelter out of leaves and twigs, or constructing a lean-to at the end of every day, realize how much calories you're going to burn just doing that. Just collecting all the crap you need to put all that together, and chopping wood and sawing things like you ain't gonna attract attention from folks that might
Yeah,
be nearby hearing you whacking at stuff.
yeah.
Come on now.
And it takes, and if you have a lightweight tarp or lightweight poncho, how long does it take to put up? Max 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. Max, and
Yeah.
that's
You got some string and a poncho. You fling up a half shelter right quick.
mm-hmm, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
I mean, and my point is you'll see guys that are packing, you know, 3 different fixed blade knives and a folding saw and a hatchet and a machete and a one of those pull through chainsaws and all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, if it's bad enough that you've got to bug out on foot, um, you're already burning a ton of calories and you're already taking time. You don't have the time to stop and be constructing all these shelters. You don't have the food and the caloric intake, much
Yeah,
less when you're busy doing all that, who's looking around making sure that somebody isn't hearing you make all that noise and coming to see what you're doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
and I reckon you're cooking fire, and you're all that erecting your shelter noise ain't gonna attract some unwanted attention. That's
Yeah.
that is
At night,
misconception.
when the clouds are low and you start hitting things, that just goes for miles. Literally goes for miles.
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Especially in winter when there ain't no leaves on the trees.
Yeah. So, in the knife situations, this is what I say. I've said this to people. The knife that when you find yourself in a survival situation, the knife that you have on you is your survival knife. Okay. So
right.
if you carry a knife, carry it. It doesn't have to be a $200 knife. Carry a decent knife. All right. And that's the knife that you will go into your survival situation with. Now you can have one in your backpack. Okay. But then you have 3 and 4, and that's going to start adding up. So just choose one.
And I'm back to like Dick said, a good. The two things I like to have is a good medium-sized fixed blade, like about 4 or 5 inches, and
You broke. You froze.
Ah, dang.
4 or 5 inches, and Harry's back. Okay. You're back.
We lost you at fixed blade knife.
Just froze up.
Man.
All right. Now you're back.
yeah, sorry about that. The NSA is just screwing up everything tonight.
They're hitting us hard tonight. So
Yeah. What I was trying to say is I like a good fixed blade. It's about 4 or 5 inches, and then a good multi-tool, because like Dick said, a multi-tool is going to have
a lot.
a smaller folding blade in it, and that's probably what you're going to wear, or not wear, but use the most anyway. Is
Yeah.
that smaller blade? So and that carries over to a lot of things, including. I mean, I know we've been focusing real hard on the get home bag, bug out bag thing, but believe it or not, if you start branching into a patrol bag or security bag or whatever for what you're doing around your area, a lot of the same stuff applies. You need to be carrying what is applicable for the location, time of year, and the environment that you're doing stuff in. Um, you know, you can't just carbon copy what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
We can beat that horse 10 ways from Sunday, but it's just be very wary, people, of these. I don't care what their credentials are and how expert they are. If they're not giving you context, then that in and of itself should be a big red flag. If they're not giving you plenty of details about the intended environment, usage, time of year, geographical rough area, etc., that should be a flag. Don't just be copying what they're laying down and throwing out there. Um, just because I thought about it, and before the computer goes out on me again, here's another good one for you to think about in your. Let's just put this one on a get home, or not a get home, but a bug out bag for the moment. Okay, just talking about a bug out bag. You'll see plenty of folks who like to talk about in their bug out bag. They've got their big IFAC, and they've got their tourniquets and chest seals and MPA and decomp needle and all that good stuff. I take you back to the context portion of the exercise. If things are bad enough that I'm not able to use my vehicle to go from point A to point B, i.e., my house to wherever it is I'm trying to get to because bad things are happening, if it's bad enough that I got to walk on foot and I take an injury that
Where's the
requires a tourniquet or a chest seal or a decomp needle, where's the helicopter and or ambulance coming from that's going to come get me and take me to the local trauma center?
Yep.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about having that big fancy IFAC, but you know what they don't talk about? They don't talk about having a big package of Band-Aids and antibiotic ointment and antiseptic wipes
Right.
and gauze pads and over-the-counter
Mold.
medications, moleskin by the yard,
Moleskin. That's right.
tape.
Yep.
Burn gel.
They don't
Burn
think about having all that stuff. And
How many
you're
times
far,
burn gel, dang it.
yeah, I mean, you're far more likely to end up getting cut on a briar and it getting infected than you are to need multiple tourniquets and multiple chest seals.
Well, if you get shot in the middle of nowhere and you put a tourniquet on, now what are you going to do?
All you done is delay the inevitable.
Right. You put a
Right.
chest seal on. What are you going to do? You're 15 miles away from nowhere.
You ain't getting back in the fight. That is for damn sure.
I mean, what are you going to do? So.
But folks have been watching too many dang movies. They think they're going to throw a tourniquet on each arm and pick up their rifle and keep fighting.
That's right. That's right. It looks like I'm the only one on the screen for some reason. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, I think John.
There we go.
Well, it was because I was trying to put you up while you were talking, and then I lost connection right when I did. So,
Okay.
and I apologize for all the drop connections, guys. I don't know what's going on.
So, John, you and I know, have had this conversation. I think even Brother Dick was in on it a while back too. But I mean, you're absolutely, and you know, if you don't have the moleskin, you don't have all that, then you don't really know what you're doing. You know, I mean, you know, and here's another thing. Talk about moleskin. You know, you have to have these other things. You have to have Band-Aids. You know, you have I have antibiotic wipes. I have alcohol wipes, all that kind of stuff. But you don't see a lot of foot care. You know, so if you don't have several pairs of extra socks, right? And I don't know if people know this or not, but I have it. You can either use foot powder, or you can use deodorant spray that has aluminum chlorhydrate in it. If you have boots that have the waterproof membrane in them, do not use foot powder because it will clog up the membrane and it will make you just have a plastic bag on your foot. Use deodorant like this Dove spray deodorant that has aluminum chlorhydrate. It's actually better than foot powder. If you use foot powder, be sure you just have a leather boot, a regular boot that doesn't have that membrane. So, but have extra socks. You have to have extra socks because if your feet turn to hamburger, you ain't going nowhere.
And you just mentioned something that brought back something I wanted to hit on. We've been talking a lot about putting your stuff in the sack into a waterproof bag.
Yeah.
Look, you ain't got to go get the waterproof bags, Milsurp, the dry bags or anything like that. If you're that desperate, even a plastic shopping bag is better than nothing.
Yeah,
put your stuff in there, tie it in a knot, and protect the gear any way you can. Ziploc bags, garbage bags, shopping bags, anything that adds an extra water resistant layer to the stuff you got in your rug. If you can upgrade it later, then terrific. The nice thing is that the plastic bags can serve as a multifunction asset later on if you gotta, like hide your poop or something.
Yeah, no, good point.
As a perfect example, see this right here? Somebody turned me on to these, And you can get a multi-pack of these off of Amazon that has about 8 different sizes in it, including some really big ones all the way down to some pretty small ones. They've got a double seal across them, and there's a vent on the bottom right here, and you can't see it on the camera, but you can press all the air out of it, and then it self-seals. You can get a multi-pack of these on Amazon for about $12.
I wonder
If
who
I
turned you
remember
on.
Bidenomics might have changed that price recently, but it's a thing. You can pack clothes, you can pack equipment, gear in these, and they work great. Is it a military Willie Pete bag? No, but it doesn't have to be. It can still work. If you don't have these,
About them is nice thing about them is when you squeezing the air out of things, it actually compresses whatever's inside the bag and makes it smaller, so it takes up less space.
right. If you don't have these stashed everywhere of some form or another, like you should have multiples of these, like in your pack, in the outside pocket, the inside pocket, in your gear, wherever. They're stupid cheap. There's 3 or 4 different places you can get them from, and just having little things in them like the moleskin strips, some alcohol wipes, and some antibiotic ointment.
Yeah. Yep. And those you get all that stuff at Walmart.
Yep.
I mean,
you don't got to buy it off some online vendor who's going to upcharge you. You just go to Walmart and gather it.
All my first aid kits, I made them myself out of stuff I got at Walmart, whatever. So you don't have to spend a lot of money in it. But and guys, I will tell you that take your bag, put it on your back, put on the shoes that you foresee you being in at the time. I keep an extra pair of walking shoes in my truck just for that, and go walk with it. Go walk with it. Every single video I've said this, and I'm going to say it again on this one. Get out and do it. Get out from behind the keyboard. Get out and do it. John, you were out just last couple of days. You've had your rucksack on because we've been talking about it.
I was going to touch on that. So I did an experiment a couple of weeks ago, and I decided on one of my ruck walks that instead of wearing my boots like I normally wear, that I was going to wear my my running shoes that I run in. That was a very, I won't say a valuable lesson because I already knew what was going to happen, but it was still just an experiment to see if it revalidated what I already knew. And it most certainly revalidated what I already knew. And that is running shoes are for running. They are not for throwing a 40-pound ruck on and walking a long way. If I'm going to throw a 40-pound ruck on and walk a long way, I want hiking shoes, boots. I want something substantial on my feet. If you don't believe me, then that's fine. You can go find out for yourself. But your feet and your calves, and especially your shins, your feet and your shins are going to explain it to you in very vocal detail.
And ankles.
Your feet, when you put more weight on, and especially over duration, your feet and ankles need that support of a stiff boot. I have the old 1980s leather boot where it has the trifold tongue on it. And they're hard. There's no nails going through that sole. And when I put heavy weight on, or if I don't put heavy weight on, but especially if I do put heavy weight on, I'm wearing those, and those go with me in my car. And I actually have like a couple of bags. I have a 72-hour bag, and if I'm at where I'm working, I know it's only 12 miles to get home. All right, I've got extra stuff in there. It's lighter, but I'm still putting those boots on to protect my feet. You don't know what type of disaster you're going to run into, and if you just got tennis shoes, because when I was I made a huge mistake when I was in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I was there the day after. All right, I stepped up. I had to run out and do an op right quick. I ran out in my tennis shoes, and a nail went right between my big toe and that second toe. And I'm like, this is the biggest lesson that I could ever learn, and I'm never going to do that again. All right. And if you have a chance to buy some shoes, look at them, or some boots, try and get some with a steel shank in them, because when you got to put that get home bag on, things have gone really, really bad, and you're probably going to need it. You might find
Yeah.
yourself in some type of disaster that you've got trash and debris all over the place. A tornado, hurricane comes, you're going to need that support anyhow.
Well, and I'll say
That's from experience.
even if you can't find them, with the steel shank, they've got a lot of the polymer composite ones now that are almost
Mm-hmm.
as good.
That's
But
true.
but irregardless, a good solid pair of boots, even without that, is usually gonna have a thick enough sole between the
Like a
sole and
Vibram
the
sole
insole and all that, that even if something goes in it, it's not gonna come all the way
all the
through
way through. Right.
into your foot because just the sheer thickness of it. The exception being, and this is something I see the guys get really wound up about, is these super lightweight, high speed, cool guy boots that are really nothing more than glorified high top running shoes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're super light on your feet and feel all like just your favorite pair of furry slippers, but when you got to actually put miles on them repeatedly over and over again and don't know if or when you'll ever be able to replace them, you you might want to have something a little bit more substantial, because having to wrap your boots in duct tape
Yeah.
is a really crappy solution that could be
That might be the
prevented.
last pair of boots you ever own. So you better choose wisely.
Yeah.
Very, very well
Yeah.
could
The
be.
house may not be there when you get home.
Exactly, and that's the thing I point out to most folks who ain't paying attention to it, is that when the SH's TF, it usually means that you ain't gonna be going to Walmart anytime soon.
Yeah.
So you better got everything that you need before that happens, and be setting it aside, not wearing it out, but wearing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Amazon most likely ain't going to be delivering either.
No, they're not going to
So,
be taking orders. Yeah.
and that's another thing when it comes to, and I know we're jumping all over here, but when it comes to getting stuff for your bag, look, you can sit here and virtue signal all you want about wanting all 100% American stuff. Okay, that's great, good on you. If you can afford that, more power to you. Not everybody can. I would rather see somebody get some Amazon plastic bags to put their stuff in that maybe it is made in China. I don't give a flying flip. 85% of the stuff you use in your everyday life somehow is made in China or has components made in China. Stop the virtue signaling and don't let that influence what you do. If you can save a little money or need to save some money, there's plenty of serviceable stuff that you can get off of places like Amazon and Wally World. Crappy as they may be sometimes, there's plenty of stuff you can get there that's going to serve the purpose and do what you need it to do. It's better that you have this than nothing at all, because it's easy to sit here and say, what you ideally want everybody to have, but that might not be in everybody's budget. And oh, I know. Well, just don't be poor. Just make more money. Okay, whatever. There's that unrealistic, completely unrealistic virtue signaling again. That if it was that easy, then everybody would do it.
Yeah.
And before we get too far off it, Perceptive Strategics asked in the chat, what boots do we prefer? And real quick, I think we've already covered what we consider the primary concerns for boots. But just get what works for y'all. Your terrain and your climate are going to determine whether or not you need like Gore-Tex boots or vented boots, things that'll drain if you step in water. The only one recommendation that I will make is stay away from them damn SWAT team boots with the dang zipper up the side, because them things will come apart like a fat guy's shirt at the Golden Corral. They don't stay shut. When you start working them hard, the zipper just pops apart.
Yeah. From personal experience, so when I was going through selection for Special Forces, I was about halfway through, and the Army boot that's high really started irritating my Achilles tendon. That got really bad. I had to take my knife out. I was in the middle of what I was doing, just slit the back of it and went on. I got some Motrin, finished, passed. My point is that then this is personal, okay? If I'm walking a lot, I prefer a lower boot so I don't have that. I know that I'm susceptible to that. It never happened again, but I know if I am on a 3-day trek, right, and I'm not as good shape as I was then, I may have some problems. So I personally am going to choose a lower. But I had that experience because I was put under, pretty stressful, stuff. My feet were, but whatever, like you said, whatever works for you, and your body, when you find yourself, I'm just going to say this, all right. So if you have to walk home, let's say you are 200 miles away from the house, right, and you've got to get home, your bag's going to be relatively heavy, and your body's going to go through some really weird things because you're using up all of your food. After the first week, right, and for the remaining 2 weeks, I didn't poop because my body was using up everything, and I'm like, this is terrible. Well, you're going to do the same thing because, especially in the winter, if you're churning and you got to especially if you're going cross country, your body's going to be doing some weird things. And that's one thing that it might happen. So just know that may happen to you and don't worry about it because you're using up everything. So get out and do it, and you'll discover these things that, hey, maybe my boot has got hot spots that I got to take care of.
I got to confess, when I was in combat controller selection class, I had to do the same damn thing. The boots, I had to slit the back of them to keep them from pinching me.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing. It's a real thing. And you guys, so let me just say this, the boots, if you guys want to know how to break in boots, the quickest way to do it, in my opinion, take them, especially if you've got leather on them, take them, get them wringing wet, put them on, and walk around with them. It can be just around your house. You don't have to go on a 10-mile hike. Walk around with them, and they'll start molding to your feet. And that's one of the best ways to break them in that I've found. So,
yeah. And to answer the original question there, I'm partial to various models of Danners, Rockies, especially the S2Vs, and my running favorite for about 2.5 years now has been my Ultima Pro X jungle boots. Unfortunately, I just found out that they have sadly discontinued those. And I am very heartbroken because I wanted to get a second pair to have as a backup because I love these so much. And now they've discontinued them. And my dreams of getting a second pair are now shot. And I'm very, very depressed about that.
I'm sorry
But,
about that.
but the good thing is I can resort back to my previous favorites of my Rocky S2Vs. The only downside to the S2Vs for me versus versus those were that the S2Vs have got good airflow and drainage like the Pro X's did. Both have got really good soles and shanks in them. The Pro X's were just a little bit lighter weight, and I appreciated that lighter weight on my feet. But I wore the Pro X's for a long. I mean the S2Vs for a long time. So I don't have a problem continuing to use those once my Pro X's die. But that's my personal favorites. Now I know other guys that have used various boots and have had mixed results. I do know what brand is it? Know a couple of guys that have had some problems with one brand in particular, and it's right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't get it out. Crap. I'll think of it after we get off. But
Yeah, of course.
I mean, like Noel said, find the ones that work for you. You know, I can tell you what all my favorites are, but just like there'd be differences between what Noel can use and what I can use. Now, I will say I don't like a boot that's more than 6 to 8 inches high. Really, more of a 6 inch high boot. I definitely don't like 10-inch high boots. They kill my calf muscle. 8 inches is like right at the limit of what I can do. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll lace it up snugger around my foot, and then as it goes up my leg, I'll continually leaving it a little bit looser and a little bit looser, so
Right.
it's not constricting the lower part of my calf muscle too much. But I mean, again, the only way to get them broke in and get used to them is to put them on and wear them, and
Right.
ideally put them on and wear them with a little bit of extra weight on you besides just your body weight.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the bag topic, I mean, I think we kind of hammered that pretty good. I'm trying to
So,
think.
if you guys go out and buy a bag that's relatively big, and that's fine because you may have more stuff in the winter, but don't think that just because the bag portion of your rucksack or backpack is big, you got to fill it. I mean, what you do, take your stuff, lay it out, all right? And I usually go to my get home bag. A lot of people put stuff in it. I'm like, what can I do to get rid of? You know, it have your everything in there well thought out, and everything has multiple use, and
Right.
that it's going to be weighty. You're not going to get around that, but at least you don't have three things to do one job.
Yeah.
So
You don't need to carry a jet boil stove if you've got a Bic lighter. You
yeah, well, don't carry a stove if you have MREs. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
Right.
That's the thing. The thing that boggles my mind is these backpacker folks. They talk about the carry dehydrated meals, but then they don't talk about the extra water and the jet boil stove you got to carry now just to make your food edible.
well,
Right.
they have the luxury of planning their hike out. So the first
Yeah.
day I'm going to be at this cabin in this shelter, and it's going to have water at it, so I have an unlimited amount of. You don't have that luxury. You're not going along a trail.
Yeah,
So,
you ever notice how loud them things are? Them jet boil
yeah,
stoves.
they can be real loud.
They hiss like a dang turbine,
Well, that's why they call them a
hear,
jet, probably.
you can hear it from a good 100 yards away.
Yeah.
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 I mean, at that point, you're better off having just a little folding stove that you can feed twigs into, and burn.
If you're listening to that dang thing hiss while it's burling your water, how you going to hear somebody sneaking up on
Yeah.
you?
Or get a little Isbit, the little heat tab
The,
stove or something.
As I said, the Esbits are probably my favorite, simply because they don't put off a lot of light, they don't put off a lot of odor, and they're pretty quiet for the most part.
And you technically don't even need a stove to burn them. You can put them
Right.
underneath your canteen cup and burn it right there.
Dig a little hole, little slit.
Right.
And,
Right.
yeah, done that a lot.
And as far as the bag itself goes, I will always say have a bigger bag than what you think you're going to need. Just because it's bigger than what you need doesn't mean that you need to fill it up, but it gives you that option should something arise that you need to carry extra stuff, because you can always cinch a bag down. That's what cinch straps are on there for.
Yeah.
But it's only going to stretch out so far. And once it's
Right.
stretched so far, it ain't going to stretch no more.
My point, you're absolutely right. And my point was be disciplined. You don't have to fill it up, because you may, if you leave your car and have to walk home, there may be some items from your car that are very valuable, that you want to take with you for the long haul or whatever. But you're right. It is good to have a little extra room. You don't have to fill it up with gadgets and zip ties and all these things that you'll never need.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing is, make sure you got enough of what you do need.
Mhm.
But leave out the crap you ain't gonna need. You don't need, like we were talking about before, you don't need like 15 ways to make a fire. You don't need tools to construct yourself a log cabin. Just carry what you know you're gonna need, but keep a little extra of what you think you're gonna need. Stretch it out to about 2 days more than the forecast you had in mind for getting home or getting to your bug out location, just in case something goes sideways. And another thing, you got to bear in mind that it ain't going to be as easy as just walking there. You're going to get wet. You're going to get cold. You're going to get hurt. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be things that make you sick. There's going to be threats that you didn't consider.
Mm-hmm.
You got to factor all these things in when you're planning your route, not necessarily when you're packing your bag. Don't misinterpret. I'm not saying pack your bag full of hand grenades. Come on now, just make sure you got extras in the event that you got to go around something instead of straight through it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Plan for the unexpected, because you can always, not that you'd ever want to, but you can theoretically ditch stuff on the way if you have to, but you can't count on finding it and picking it up. So if you know you need 3 days worth of food, you probably ought to pack 4 or 5 days.
Well, another thing is what I don't see people do on these videos is understand that, especially in the summer, you need some like liquid IV solution, Gatorade solution, those powders, because you are going to, once you go down on heat, it's going to take you a long time to recover if you don't have some help like that. I've been completely exhausted and had some of that rehydration solution that you put in your canteen of the Army. All right. It picked me up a couple hours later. I was good. Have some Gatorade, I have that liquid IV stuff I can put in a canteen. All right. And it'll replace all these electrolytes and everything, and I can keep going.
Sometimes even just the iodized salt packet out your MRE is better than nothing for replenishing body salts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And that's another reason why I like to have multiple containers of water. That way I can always have one that's just straight water, but I can take one of the others if I need to and dump some electrolyte solution in. That way I've got one that's got it and one that don't got it, Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Every time you get those little from your local barbecue joint, and they give you the little packet that's got the plastic knife and spoon and napkin and salt and pepper pack in it, man, we've got a drawer full of those in the kitchen where we save them up because they're real easy to grab and throw into your pack, and they give you a bunch of those.
Just because you don't use it to season your food in the MRE, don't throw it away. Hang on to
Right.
that. When you're sweating and you done sweat through your clothes, just pour that dang thing into your mouth and wash it down with a canteen.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. It is it perfect? No, but it's far better than nothing at all. It's at least something. You're making use of everything that you can, that you've got with you.
Your body will let you know when you ain't got it.
That's one thing I like about this particular little first aid kit right here is it actually has, as part of it, there's electrolyte replenishing doohickeys in the bottom of it. So you can pop those in and go. It's all that kind of stuff that nobody ever seems to want to talk about and think about, and not embrace the fact that this is gonna suck. Like, try to plan every way you can to get where you need to go, other than having to throw your backpack on and walk. Like, that should be your absolute last. I have no other choice than to do this, because it is going to suck. It is not going to be a nature hike in the local park. You're not going to just be diddy bopping along, enjoying the wildflowers and the butterflies. If it's bad enough you got to walk on foot, you better be looking for other threats. You better not just be, diddy bopping down the main trail, unless maybe you've got a big section of highway that's literally in the middle of nowhere with nothing around, and it's open enough that you can spot things from a ways away. Okay, you might can take advantage of that to make some time, but you better be ready to jump off the road into the bushes and handrail that sucker at a moment's notice, because again, it's not going to be just a nature hike where you're just enjoying the wildflowers and the butterflies.
Yeah, and just because you can do it, don't necessarily mean that your wife and kids can do it too.
That's exactly right.
You got to pace yourself according to the folks you're going to be riding with, and make sure that you got enough stuff in your ruck for that extra day it's going to take for your 6-year-old to keep up with you.
Yeah.
Yep. Because
exactly
you
right.
might end up having to carry them along with your ruck if it's a smaller kid, because they can't walk and put the same kind of mileage on that you can. Better try to figure out a way to, if nothing else, have your kid carry a little small, I don't know, Hello Kitty backpack with a couple of canteens of water in it, right?
Rainbow monkey knapsack.
Yeah.
Or you may, and you may have a small child that needs diapers.
There you go, right there. Have the kid carry a couple of canteens of water and some diapers in there, something to make use of their little pack mule self. And I said we weren't going to get specific on how to pack stuff, but I know we've kind of touched on a few things. But I want to hit on one other thing that I never see people talk about, and actually 2 points. One, I never see anybody talk about is I'm perfectly fine using a tarp to set up a shelter with at night. Okay. But with that, there's a couple other things you need to make sure that you got, in my opinion. One, you need something on the ground to lay on, be it an inflatable pad, an isomat, something in colder weather to help insulate you from the ground, and in any other weather, so that you're not laying on the wet ground, or so that you're not laying on the ground getting poked with, everything under the sun. And the ground's kind of hard. Don't know if you've ever laid on it recently, but it's pretty hard stuff. Then you're going to need sleeping bags, poncho liners, whatever for your environment. But the one that gets me the most is the one that I never see anybody talk about adding to their super light tarp shelter system. Now, maybe in your region of the country, it's not a thing, and I perfectly accept that. In my region of the country, you better have a titanium mesh bug net that covers you, your sleeping area, your pack, your boots, your clothing, and offers a good 6 inches of standoff around all of that. Okay. And allows you to tuck it underneath everything. Otherwise, it might not be just the bugs you got to worry about. There are all kind of things in the middle of the night that are going to go, oh, look, there's a nice warm thing to go curl up next to. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you're the local motel. Um, Down here, you will not sleep at night outdoors for 8 months out of the year without a serious bug net around your sleeping area. And it cannot be touching you, because if the net is touching you, you might as well not have it. You will get ate enough by insects drinking your blood that you very well may go into anaphylactic shock. If not, you're going to be 3 liters shallow the next morning when you go to get up, and you're going to wonder why you're feeling so anemic. But nobody ever talks about having the big bug net to keep the critters and stuff away from you. I don't know
For,
why.
for the viewing audience, Cousin John keep trying to get me to come down and visit him now. And he just made a strong case for me not wanting to go down there and deal with them pterodactyl sized skeeters he's got down there.
Yeah, I've been there. I go down there.
When you got quarter, $half size tiger mosquitoes that will bite through this, I kid you not, this fleece they will bite through.
They fly off with your toddlers.
Yeah. He definitely ain't coming now.
Yeah.
He definitely ain't coming.
Besides them and the dang reptiles the size of dogs, I don't think I'm gonna be making it down there anytime soon.
Yeah, that pterodactyl will get you every time.
Did we lose Cousin John again?
I think we did. Yeah, they're pretty bad. I do have a head net in mind, especially in the summer. But yeah, I mean, down there where he's at, I mean, they're bad.
They are merciless down there.
They are. And I mean, the bug spray does help a little bit, but I mean, they're just like,
they've developed a tolerance for it.
Yeah, and if you're,
in fact, I think if you light one of them citronella candles, they just come after it harder.
They just sniff it, and if you're under 50 pounds, they'll just take you and fly you away.
They just carry you off, and they'll find your bones in the swamp.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, and I don't have a whole one, but I do have a head net that I keep in my bag.
Oh, I even got one of them that you put over the brim of your boonie hat.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I got. Yeah.
Face, and you draw the neck string tight. I got one of them, but heck, John's skeeters, they'll rip a hole in it and laugh at you.
Yeah. They just bite through it. So yeah. No, I'm glad we had this discussion because I want to get some of these things off my chest, and I don't know if anyone's listening that actually has produced some of these videos, but just because John and I were talking, just because you're this special ops guy that does CQB doesn't necessarily mean you know how to pack or what to do with a get home bag.
Yeah.
And so
I went through the SEER challenge before it was a game. I know Brent's out there in the audience listening.
Yeah, I saw the videos. Yeah.
But I done that real time, and it ain't the same as when you got time to plan out your trip, pack your bag and go. But you definitely learn some hard lessons doing that.
Yeah.
And just in case Jay Blanco is out there in the audience, Vidya.
Yeah, I've been through SEER training in the Army, and mean, it's an eye opener, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I actually had a good time in it. But
yeah.
yeah.
Army folk gave me a lot of grief when I was in Benning, but that's their home, ain't mine.
Hmm.
But I got used to them. You know, you can't blame Army guys for being Army guys.
Yeah, well, a lot of us are knuckle draggers, I don't know if we're gonna get John back.
Is John coming back?
I I don't know if he can make it.
Do you
So,
need a map to find his way home?
something, something. Yeah, I was
You know,
trying to read the comments here.
we got to send John a land nav so he can find his way back to the stream. Yeah, I'm looking at some
Okay.
comments there.
So what? See, I forget who it was. Way back when I meant to comment on this. Hold on a second. I think it's a dot guy. I'm looking. His mosquitoes. Yeah, no, they are. Brent, they're a different breed. They are. One thing. Where is it? Dot D or something like that. And yeah, he made a comment. You know, if you do, it does help to have bushcraft skills. If the
Yeah,
more bushcraft skills you have, kind of the lighter, you don't depend on as many things in your bag. But what does a bushcraft do? I'm not talking about using a bow and saw to start a fire. I'm talking about your ability to put up a tarp quickly, your ability to read a map,
yeah,
map and compass, things like that, where you may not have the luxury of that GPS. It may not work under the conditions that we're talking about, but know how to read a map, know the different types of map, know that a topo map, the roads aren't always as accurate as a street map, but then the street map doesn't have elevation on it. So, you know, um, know how to do general first aid.
yeah,
Know what your body does that we talked about when it's physically exhausted. You put under stress. The only way you can know that is to actually go out and do some of that. But bushcraft skills are very important. So
yeah. I give the bushcraft guys a lot of grief. Don't get me wrong. I value some of that knowledge. You got if you know how to find yourself some wild edibles, by all means do that. But don't go out there under the misconception that you're just going to start supplementing your diet with wild edibles and not get
right,
diarrhea.
yes, that's exactly right.
You know,
Because it will take you 2 hours to forage around to get enough to make a meal.
exactly. Learn how to make you a fire bundle. Learn how to start a fire when everything's soaking wet.
Yeah.
Learn all the things you need to find water. Rule of thumb, range finding for navigating. All those things are valuable. I know them too. I know how to dig a Dakota fire hole if I want to build a stealth fire. I'm not saying that bushcraft skills are useless, but they bushcraft skills are relying upon the situation that you have plenty of time to implement them.
Right, right,
They all require extra time and extra energy to implement.
right.
If you're
And
in an escape and evasion situation and you're in a hurry to get to your bug out location, you ain't gonna have time to go
never.
foraging for mushrooms and digging yourself a fire hole or harvesting
And to
game,
the point
trapping.
you made earlier, don't count on making a lean-to out of sticks and leaves. That's not a good plan.
No,
That's a bushcraft skill. Maybe the word isn't maybe bushcraft that I use, but basic outdoor skills.
yeah,
But yeah, don't count on foraging for food. Don't count on making a lean-to out of nothing but sticks and leaves and grass, because you're going to run out of time. When you run out of time, you run out of food. So,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now that I'm back,
Yeah, we
welcome
got you.
back.
I was listening to y'all the whole time, and I could do everything except come back in. It wouldn't let me enter back in. I had to leave and completely come back. But the other point that I was trying to make before I was so rudely interrupted was another point was rain gear. Um,
Ah, mm,
so
Oh, here we go. I know where you're
um,
going.
yeah, me too.
look, I know ponchos, especially military type, are a versatile tool. But there's a couple of potential pitfalls with that. Number one, if it's raining and my poncho is going to be in my shelter, and I've got my poncho on because it's raining, and now I got to make my shelter, that means I got to take the poncho off to make my shelter. Well, while I'm doing that, if it's raining, guess what I'm doing? I'm now getting wet, which completely negated the entire reason for wearing the poncho in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, it's not a good idea. Secondly, have you ever actually worn a poncho and walked anywhere while it was raining to any degree? I can
Yeah,
100% guarantee you
half your body gonna get wet anyhow.
from the knees down,
Hmm.
you're going to get soaked. I've lost connection again, so I don't know if y'all can still hear me or not.
We can hear you. Yeah, we see you.
Okay. Um, from the knees down, you're going to be soaked. And if you're wearing the super awesome Gore-Tex boots like everybody tells you to wear, now you've got buckets of water on your feet because that rainwater has nowhere to go. What keeps the water out is also keeping the water in because it's running
Hmm.
down your pants legs into your boots. Ask me how I know. So, my point with that is think long and hard about your rain gear slash shelter gear. Not a fan of having the two be the same. If I'm going to have a poncho for the rain, that's what the poncho is going to be for, is for the rain. If I'm going to have the poncho for a shelter, it's going to be for a shelter. It's going to be one or the other. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of a rain jacket and rain pants
Hmm.
because the rain jacket will go over the waist and then the pants go over my boots. So now all of that water is kind of like acting like the shingles on your roof, and it's running completely off my boots and not going down my pants legs into my boots. It also gives me the option of, maybe it's just sprinkling a little bit. Well, I don't necessarily have to put the pants on if I don't want to. I can just have the jacket on, and it's a lot easier to have my pack and everything on over my jacket than to have it underneath the poncho. Because if it's underneath the poncho and I need to get it off to get the stuff, once again, I ask you, have you ever had a big ruck on underneath the poncho and then attempted to get it off to do anything? It's much easier to have a pair of rain pants, rain
Hmm.
jacket, and then a pack cover over your pack to keep everything nice and dry, each individually. Then I can set the pack down, and no matter what I'm doing, the pack's staying dry. Whereas if I've got it on underneath the poncho, then if I need to take the pack off to do something where I don't want the pack on my back the whole time, it's laying there getting wet now. Whereas if I've got its own cover on it, it's staying drier. So my 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 point with all that is to just think really hard about what you're doing for inclement weather like that, as far as both your outer shells and your shelter itself. Um,
From
because
personal experience, if you are wringing wet, okay, um, and you need to get out of those clothes because it's cold, you can put your rain gear on as clothes. I've done
Mhm.
it. Um, and everything went fine. It's literally an extra set of clothes in the winter. I know that sounds off the wall, but it is.
No, it is. I mean, you have stuff that does double duty. Well, there you go. It can do double duty. Now, here's the other little thing to think about. Depending on your area and region of the country, and depending on the time of year, you might, crazy thought coming here. Hold on, buckle your chin strap. You might not want to wear any rain gear at all. You might just want to get wet, because down here, sometimes in certain months of the year, at midnight, it's still 85 degrees with 90% humidity. A nice cool rain will help send you into hypothermia, but when you're bringing your body temperature down from its core temperature of 112 and you're trying to get it down to 98.6, a little hypothermia is actually a helpful thing and not a bad thing. It also goes a long way to rinsing a lot of that nice sticky salt out of all your clothes. So you might want to get wet, keep your pack dry, have a cover on your pack, and just embrace it and get wet. Your skin's waterproof. Okay, so you're not going to melt. I don't think any of us are sweet enough to melt. But again, that's very situationally dependent on where you're at, the time of year.
Yeah.
One size fits all black and white thing to this whole equation. You've got to look at everything individually for your situation. Now, having said all of that, even in the deep South, you can still get hypothermia in the bad way, even in the summertime. Because if you get soaking wet and the temperature drops down, say upper 60s, and now you're stationary and not moving, not generating any body heat, at 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 95 degrees, you're hypothermic. Like if your core temperature hits 95, you are hypothermic. So, and I don't think many people really understand what a couple of degrees difference in your core body temperature can make on you. So you got to play that one real carefully when it comes to, okay, do I try to stay dry? Do I let myself get wet? How do I handle this?
All comes back to customizing your preparations to your environment. You know, the same principle ain't going to work up in the Pacific Northwest, where temperatures at night can get down into the 40s. You let yourself get soaking wet. Obviously, that strategy ain't going to pan out for you.
Right. You may want to let yourself be wet while you're up moving and generating heat, and then have something dry to change into while you're sleeping.
And here's another thing: you're going to have opportunities to change your socks and whatnot, but your boots, if they get wet, they're going to stay wet unless you build a fire and dry them out. Unless you can set them in the sun and dry them out.
Yeah.
Get used to the idea of having to stop frequently to change into some dry socks, and make sure you got dry socks to change into. If you gotta lay the socks on top of your shoulders so that the sun is hitting them while you're walking, that's how you got to do it. You got to dry socks. You got to keep your feet from getting trench foot and all the other ailments that come along with having soggy toes, and deal with it. It's not going to be easy. All these hiking folks, they think it's just going to be a walk in the park to their bug out location. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard, and you're going to be doing it under stressful circumstances. You're not going to have time to make camp and build a fire and dry your boots out just because you stepped in a puddle. Yeah. If you got to cross a body of water, and nothing in your bag is waterproofed because you just threw it all in there, and the bridge is out. You got to ford a creek or wade across a stream, and your bag got soaking wet, your pants are soaking wet, your boots are soaking wet, and you got nothing dry to change into. Guess what? Guess who's screwed?
Yeah.
Yep.
I will tell you, the coldest I've ever been was in Eglin Air Force Base, going through Ranger School in the swamps, where they put us through a river crossing. And this happened multiple nights. We were wringing wet. It was 55 degrees outside, and I thought I was going to die.
It's no joke.
It is no joke.
Folks don't realize how cold 55
Yeah.
degrees is when
laying in an ambush site for hours on end. Yeah. So.
Well, and having wet boots. I mean, one of my little experiences, which is obviously nothing like that, but our 7-day FTX graduation from basic training, the first 4 days of the 7 days out, it rained nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did we get soaked, we stayed soaked. And then everything that we were in for the last 3 days that while the sun was out was still soaked. And this was back when, and I'm going to, the olden days, which, you two guys will understand. We had black leather combat boots that were really good at being waterproof. Like you would literally have to get water almost up over the top of the boot to get water in the boot. The problem with that is once water got into the boot, it stayed in the boot.
Had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So for 7 days, I walked around with literal buckets of water strapped onto my feet. Well, half the time I was laying because I was laying in an LPOP that was about a 2-foot deep trench that we dug, and me and my partner were laying opposite side by side of each other. And we literally were laying in a 2-foot trench deep of muddy clay-filled water. And like by the time we got done with the 7 days and got back, even changing socks and everything else, our feet were literally yellow, like a scary color of yellow, not the, oh, hey, that looks cool. The more like, are my feet fixing to fall off kind of yellow? It was, no, I don't want to have to do that again. Not if I can help it. So I think that's something that at some point somebody ought to make a video about, because educational videos are pretty good things. And I like it when there's lots of educational videos on YouTube. If people don't like educational videos, then I don't know what to tell them.
Oh, Jay Blanco, man.
If just a little tip, if you guys have leather boots, I use Snow Seal. It's like a grease type stuff that goes on them, and take a blow dryer with the heat, melt it right in. I went through Robin Sage and the leather boots, army boots, just the issue ones, and it was raining. My feet never got wet. It's good stuff. So
yeah,
and that's my only caveat. I just understand, depending on where you're at, what time of year, and all that. Again, all that context stuff.
mm-hmm.
Boots that keep water out are also going to keep water in.
That's true. Yeah.
They're also not going to breathe, contrary to whatever advertisements Gore-Tex may put out there.
They're not going to breathe as good as just regular. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. There's a downfall to everything.
Sometimes a good vented boot that lets the airflow in and out is a better thing.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It ain't a bad idea to have your pant leg tucked into your socks and have your socks pulled up above the boot, because the socks will act as a wick to pull the moisture up out of your shoe.
Yes, that's an old school trick that a lot of people don't even know about these days. And not to mention just having them tucked in just to keep bugs and critters and dirt and stuff out.
Yeah,
I know that's out of fashion these days, but
most folks think they got to tuck the pant leg down into their boot and hide their socks. But you got to keep the socks outside the boot at some point. You got to pull them up over, even if you fold them over the top of the lip of the boot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Just
I would take my pants leg when I go to the field. Take the pants leg, put it, the string, the tie, put it down around the ankle, tie it there. So it's actually you've got plenty of ventilation and things aren't getting into the boot. I couldn't, in the field and walking, I couldn't tuck them in because where the seam is and then goes back, it makes it a lump, just bites into my leg. So that's I know a lot of guys do that. That's just what I like doing with a higher boot. So
and I know we've been running long here, and I just want to make one last point before I call it quits for the night. Is that I just want to remind y'all that a bug out or get home situation is a challenge. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be uncomfortable, and you might think you're ready for it because you got a bag packed. If you ain't done it, you ain't gonna know what it's like until you do it. We ain't infantrymen, even those of us who have been there and done that, we ain't doing it anymore.
Right.
I'm not an operator, I may have been at one time, but I ain't no more. I'm old. I don't do these things on a regular basis. I got a regular blue collar job, and I go to work every day, and I ain't got time to be running around in the woods doing one arm push ups with a 50-pound ruck on my back. But you ought to be pushing yourself and challenging yourself to get ready for a situation that you probably ain't ready for, even though you think you are, just because you got a bag packed and thrown in the back of your car.
Good point.
I'll leave it.
No, like I always say, that's a good spot to close up on. And it's like I always say, every night my head hits the pillow, I'm praying that we don't ever have to, because just to echo what you said, it don't matter how ready you think you are, it's probably not going to be ready enough. And I pray it doesn't happen. But at the same time, you got to at least take the steps to try to be as ready as you can for it to happen, because it's cliche, but the whole, how does it go? Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I think we've been more than long enough. In fact, it's longer than I even wanted to go on this, and I'm already getting tired, and I got to get up and sew stuff in the morning. So, either of you got any final thoughts?
Thanks.
Go do it. Go do it.
I'm gonna get another beer.
Okay.
Oh, wait, we can't close on that. Oh. That would that
yeah.
I don't
think it'd be fair to Randall or me if I went to the Sears Challenge.
I'm about to say, I don't. That'd be they'd catch Cousin Dick, and then they'd think, oh crap, grabbing hold of this porcupine probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, let's let him go. Let's let him go. Dick versus John.
All right, Jim.
Hey, I'm glad I'm out of that. You guys go ahead.
No.
I'm really under the radar. Okay.
Well, I appreciate y'all as always. Thanks for donating your time and jumping in here. It's much appreciated.
Good time.
And as usual, guys, we'll try to do this as often as we can. But again, that ain't a job for none of us. We got work to do.
And there were good comments. I was reading the comments. I didn't address all, but good comments. Appreciate it.
Now, see, I'm trying to close this out, and Brent's over there throwing down gauntlets.
Brent's throwing shade. He just likes to instigate.
That's almost enough to make me want to say, you know what? Maybe we do need to go out there and do it and turn the tables on them. We'll make the hunters the hunted all of a sudden. But Anyway, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Y'all take care, and we will see you in another